Welcome to Tech Surge News, where we bring you the latest in the world of science and technology. In this video, join us as we explore futuristic and groundbreaking tech that'll definitely knock your socks off. Today, for this video, we're tackling a new solar power tech that would change the world. Could this be the new innovation that could revolutionize solar power as we know it? Tune in and find out here at Tech Surge News. Most of us probably have an inkling to what solar power is and what it does. But to those living under a rock, getting no sunlight, solar power generates a whopping 2% of the world's electricity. Not much, I know, and it makes sense since crystalline silicon-based solar panels, the dominant material tech, produces most of that. Given its drawbacks like pollution and inefficiency, silicon is all that we have since there's so much of it. Fortunately, teams from Swift Solar are here to save the day. Led by CEO Joel Jean, they're researching on the next best thing, perovskites. It's a new semiconductor material that effectively absorbs light and transports charge. It's apparently more efficient, lighter, and simpler to produce for solar cells. Let's explore further what perovskites really are. This crystal structure was initially discovered as calcium titanium oxide. However, these are being mined from the earth while perovskites that are used in solar cells don't need to be. A perovskite material has a crystal structure that follows the ABX3 formula, wherein the positive ions are A and B, while X is a negative ion. By creating a wide diversity of man-made perovskite crystals, the possibilities for valuable properties are endless. Now, just how useful can a perovskite solar cell be? Good question. Firstly, silicon-based panels, what we currently use, perform a little over 20% efficiency at best. The fundamental limit for a single solar cell, known as the Shockley-Queisser limit, states that the theoretical conversion efficiency of single-junction solar technology is around 33%. Perovskites, silicon, and others encounter the same wall. However, perovskite cells are made capable of higher limits, surpassing the edge of solar power as it currently is. So, perovskites have an edge against silicon cells, but why is that exactly? To further expand on that idea, let's talk about how photovoltaic cells work. Basically, they convert sunlight to electricity. In a solar cell, the top and bottom parts both include a bunch of semiconductor components that have diverse electrical properties. For silicon cells where silicon is used, each layer is doped with a few drops of mixed elements for the purpose of creating various electrical charges. There is a boundary between the N-type region for negative electrons and the P-type region for the more positively charged electrons, called the p-n junction. Inside the boundary, those materials cancel each other out because electrons from the N-types fill in the holes from the P-types. This creates an electric field that stops further electrons and holes traveling across the junction. It then coincides to a built-in voltage and becomes a one-way valve for charge carriers. Now, when sunlight is absorbed in a solar cell, it produces a new free electron and hole, which is then divided by the electric field and pulled to the opposite sides, creating a photocurrent. Depending on the material, a single-junction solar cell can only take in a bit of the solar spectrum. Semiconductors can't absorb photons of energy less than the band gap, which is the minimum amount of energy that can be absorbed in a semiconductor, and all the valuable energy that can be taken from a photon can't be more than that either. Meaning most of the energy goes to waste when a solar cell takes in sunlight. That isn't a problem for perovskite crystals though. Because of its customizability, perovskite's band gap can be simply modified, allowing the perovskite layers to be stacked upon each other in order to absorb various parts of the solar spectrum, thus creating more p-n junctions to extract more energies from a photon, making the solar cell more efficient. Wow, perovskites are amazing, truly shining a new light in the advancement of technology in the solar department. We talked about how efficient the material performs. Let's talk about its other advantages. Perovskite is no joke in the manufacturing department either. To absorb all the sunlight, the material required for a silicon cell is just 1%, basically making the cost of production way cheaper and produces much more competent solar cells. Perovskites can also be formed at lower temperatures like no more than 100 degrees Celsius, contrary to silicon that's usually crystallized at over 1,400 degrees, allowing the use of more compact machinery and equipment. As an added bonus, since perovskites are so customizable, manufacturers can even opt to make lighter and more flexible products out of it. Perovskite solar cells are made through various techniques and methods. One technique used to manufacture these cells can be thermal evaporation. Through thermal evaporation, you heat up a source material or components of a semiconductor until it melts and eventually evaporates. After which, you condense it on a cold surface, which could be a plastic sheet, a glass sheet, or even a silicon wafer that you deposit the film on. Perovskite cells can also be made through spin coating, screen printing, or even printing the material on a sheet like it does on an inkjet printer. Swift Solar is aiming to create the perfect perovskite solar cell that can produce results efficiently and last quite a long time. They even have a fake sun they call the solar simulator. Since the weather can affect the results and researchers can't control the rain, they created this machine that is equipped with an LED array to test their cells. After intensive research, the results on perovskites have definitely been successful and has proven to be more efficient than mono and polycrystalline silicon cells. But where are perovskites really on the spectrum of commercial use? Since getting the perovskites to stabilize is quite challenging, researchers at Swift Solar can't confidently say that they'll last for a long time. There is still quite a lot of engineering and science to make it all possible. However, they are running a lot of simulations that imitate harsh situations like environmental stress and degradation, which allows them to get an idea of how long a cell can last. The future for perovskite solar cell being manufactured and commercialized is still looking great, as the raw materials for perovskites can be seen across the world, and it does have a simple process for production too. It is also estimated that perovskite solar panels could cost up to 15 times lesser per watt than the current silicon panels. Moreover, it's also a better alternative since perovskite materials have the ability to absorb all parts of the solar spectrum and generate a huge amount of power. With the ever-progressing nature of technology, it's still too early to expect what the future holds for perovskites. But in terms of efficiency and production cost, it might just be our endgame in terms of solar technology. Thank you for staying around till the end of the video. To keep on hearing from us, feel free to subscribe down below and hit the bell button to get the latest notifications. TechSurge News, signing out.